How are you guys?
All right. Barrister Bridgeman, I presume?
Yes. So we're up here, right here.
Have a seat. I promise you we're halfway insured.
I feel like I'm in center field at Wrigley Field here with the hedges. So
No,
it's good.
Sanford
Makes me
Stadium,
feel at
man.
home.
It's Sanford Stadium. We're between the hedges at UGA. Watch how Herschel Walker's coming through any minute. So, where is Perkins Coie based?
We are everywhere, but no, seriously, we're in 19 offices throughout the country. It was primarily a Seattle firm. That's our roots, Pacific Northwest, but we're up and down the West Coast, Chicago, New York, Denver, so most of the major cities.
And what do you help beverage entrepreneurs with?
Well, that's a good question. So why are we here, and how do we help?
Justify your existence, Randy.
Justify our existence.
Yeah.
Well, we're a large law firm. We're 1,000 lawyers and 19 offices, and that puts us in the category of big law. And there's, you have to be able to distinguish yourself from the other firms. And there's two things about us, I think, that are relevant to BevNet and beverage companies. One is a really strong entrepreneurial culture. We have our roots in the Pacific Northwest, Silicon Valley, so we have a huge tech focus, and we're accustomed to dealing with startup companies, entrepreneurs, and all the different things that go along with that. It's many of the same legal things that any company would have, but there's also a just suite of services that startup companies need. So we feel like we really are strong in that area. And also at the firm, we've taken an approach of trying to sort of dive into the various industries that we work in, and food and beverage is one of them. So we represent a lot of different food and beverage companies, and so now we're trying to take that entrepreneurial startup expertise and blend it with our food and beverage expertise, and that brings us to places like the BevNet conference.
Well, we're really happy to have you, and what I wonder is, you talk to a lot of places that tend to work with successful entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs themselves want to get into that food and beverage business as investors. Do you guys maintain any kind of angel pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly one of the skill sets we need to bring to the table is, what we like to say is we're a trusted advisor throughout the entire life cycle of a business, and I think that's what makes us unique among larger firms. It's harder for larger firms to deal with smaller companies. Lawyers are expensive, especially large firms, so we have to take unique billing approaches, control costs, things like that. But one of those things is just being a trusted advisor at the very beginning, and of course, helping companies through fundraising and financing and things like that, and knowing the market, knowing the right advisors, and really counseling them through that whole process.
So, are there a significant number of the tech companies that you've worked with starting to, at least some of the high net worth individuals, starting to think, well, gee, that food and beverage business looks pretty attractive?
I can't think of any specific cases in my own client base, but what I would say is those people are always interested in high growth, fast growing companies. So I have to think, those folks are always interested in industries like beverage, where things grow quickly and there's a lot of return opportunity.
It's interesting for us seeing where tech and food come together. We see a lot of food and beverage entrepreneurs saying they're going to run their company like a tech company, which sometimes opens the door to certain legal issues as well. Recalls or things of that nature, where I assume, having a good lawyer is a vital need.
Yeah, I think a startup food or beverage company has all of the same legal or risk issues that any business would, but there are a couple of acute ones. I think anytime your customers are putting your product in their mouth and ingesting it, you're human consumption, you're raising a whole host of other issues. And then there's a fair amount of intellectual property too, so trademarks, patents, things like that. And so if you find yourself as a new company on the wrong end of a trademark action or lawsuit, it can be devastating to your business. Or if you have a product recall, that can be the end of your company. So I think we always talk about our clients about taking two approaches. You have to mitigate those risks as much as possible, and part of that's having good advisors. But the other part of it is just having a plan, because there's a good chance something like that's going to happen, and you have to know what your actions are at that time.
And we do see some of those trademark issues with food and beverage companies where they think they're going to stay small, maybe be a regional brand, or they start off at farmers markets, and then as soon as they grow into retail, they didn't necessarily check the trademarks in the beginning and make sure that they had everything they needed with that.
Sometimes keeping your head down can mean ignoring a lot of things.
We see a lot of new companies that they've started out with a trademark or labeling or different intellectual property items, and they just never thought it was an issue, and then they get out too far ahead of themselves, and it becomes a big problem. So but it's tough too. You have to spend some money at the beginning, and that's not always the opportune time to be spending money at the very start of a business. So I think that's really where we come in, and relative to a large firm, is knowing that's an important issue up front, and working with clients on the cost and investing in them and the relationship.
To do it the most efficient.
Sure.
What would you say is the most pressing legal issue facing your food and beverage clients right now?
Well, there's a lot of attention on the whole labeling and class actions and things like that.
So nutrition regulation.
Yeah, but I think some of that's calmed down. We have a food litigation group, and I'm a corporate lawyer, so I'm not by means any expert on that. But I think the courts are sort of sitting tight on those issues while the FDA is acting. But
there have been some rulings that have made the industry at least a little bit more comfortable lately.
Yeah, and I think I would tell any entrepreneur in the food and beverage space to pay close attention to that, because there will be some developments in the coming months. But I think it's it's three things that we already talked about. It's intellectual property, it's the human consumption issues and risks there, and then fundraising.
Yeah.
Making sure you manage all three of those properly.
Now, are you guys seeing a massive upsurge in the kinds of deals that you're working on in terms of investment and fundraising for food and beverage?
I think there's a lot of interest in the space, and there are a lot of different funds, and whether it's private equity or venture capital or just individuals that are interested in the space. So I think there's a lot of money out there and a lot of new products. So it's an exciting time for a food and beverage entrepreneur, and there's a lot of opportunity out there.
What's the best thing you've tried here?
I think I had a couple cans of the cold brew coconut water. So it's hydration and caffeine all together.
I was hoping you weren't going to say a couple cans of the CBD beverages, because then you might fall asleep on the live stream test.
I was going for a third one, but I thought I better not do that. I'll be bouncing out.
It's a potent mix.
It's really good. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could use one now, certainly.
I lulled you to sleep.
No,
the lawyers always do that.
My wife's a lawyer, so no, they
you're immune,
better not.
You're immune to it.
No, as a former big firm lawyer, but it's been a long day up there, and I have to say that I wish I had either a cold brew coffee / coconut water mix, or just a couple of nice cold beers. I think would really hit the spot about now. Not to go all Harry Carey on you.
We've got our Brewbound conference on Thursday, Jeff,
yeah,
so it's coming.
I'm just going to have to hold out for
Two more days.
Now, are you based in Seattle?
I'm in Chicago, actually.
Oh, okay. The Windy City, they call that.
the steamy city the last 2 days.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think it's a terrific time to be a law firm heading toward the entrepreneurial side of food and beverage business, and we thank you for helping to support it and support this this organization.
Well, it's a great event, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be here. So,
Thanks so much.
Thank you.